Hi everyone, it's Evelyn, and in this video we are going to go over my thoughts on the Snapdragons that I grew this year. Now, if you have been following my videos since the beginning, it may have come as a surprise to you that I'm actually growing Snapdragons this year, because in January of 2023 I posted a video, I'm going to get the name right, called Flowers I Will Not Be Growing Again. And Snapdragons were on that list. I really did not like the Snapdragons that I grew. And the ones that I grew were, let me see, they're called Rainbow Mix Snapdragons. I'll put the picture of it up here on the screen. I found that there was virtually no yellow in that mix, by the way. And all the colors were really dark and really heavy. And I really didn't like using them. I found them really... They just created a dark spot in my bouquets, a real shadow. And I wasn't looking for something that created a shadow. I had stuff for that. I wanted something that was going to create a bit more visual interest, not just a deep shadow. So those went into my list of flowers that I wasn't going to grow again. However, I did notice that a lot of cut flower farmers love Snapdragons. Hard not to notice that if you follow any cut flower farmers or flower farmers, period. They always have snaps growing and they always love them. So I thought, okay, I'll give them a second chance. Now, before I get into the ones that I bought for the second chance, that I basically got as recommendations from other flower farmers, I want to ask if any of you have grown the Rainbow Mix and what you thought of it. I mean, I clearly didn't like it because it was on my list of never to grow again. But maybe you have grown it and you've liked it. And you've either grown it just in your garden to look at, or you've used it in bouquets. And if you've used it in bouquets, what did you pair it with? That would be kind of interesting to know. Anyway, so the Snapdragons that flower farmers were recommending, I chose 3 of them for my 2023 season, because I ordered the seeds after I had made that video, probably a few months later. So it wouldn't have been a few months later, because I would have needed them for February to start them, because they're such an early flower if you don't plant them pre-winter. So it was probably just a week or 2 after I had filmed that video. I thought, yeah, okay, I'll give it a second chance. And I wrote a list of 3 different Snapdragons that I wanted to order. And while looking on the catalog, I got them from Johnny's Seeds, I actually saw another one that I was really drawn to, so I decided to order that as a 4th one, and I'll get into what that one was in a few minutes. But first, let's go over the ones that I did order. I ordered, I'm on my computer here, so I have to look at the names because I'm not growing them anymore. Potomac Early Sunrise, which is really berry color, sunrise colors. Again, I found it really, really heavy in my bouquets. I did not like that heaviness that it produced. And then I grew Snapdragon Costa Mix, same thing. There was absolutely no light ones in that mix. They were all the really dark berry tones, and I didn't like that either. And then the 3rd one was Opus Early Bronze. Very, very heavy again, but this time not heavy in the berry colors or the sunrise colors, but in the sort of, well, they are actually almost a sunset color. I mean, it was really, really heavy on a deep orange. And I mean, I like orange, but I did not like the shade of orangey brown that they were. Really didn't like them at all. So again, I didn't like those. So once again, they made my list of, let me look at the name of what it was, worst cut flowers. And that was, I posted that one in January of this year, because there's no way I was growing those 3 again. But now again, they were recommendations from other flower farmers. If you are a flower farmer or just a home gardener and you've grown them, either one of those 3, and you like them, again, please leave it in the comments section below why you like them, and if you made bouquets with them, what you paired them with, because I personally would like to know, because I couldn't make them work. Now, there was one, the one of the 4 that I grew last year, there was one that I did like, and that's the one that I was drawn to, and I decided that I would order that one just for myself as an experiment, because I really, really liked the color of that one. Now, the one that I liked, and I'll put a picture of it up here, and this picture is from my garden, is called Orleans Early Lemon. It's a light color. It's not actually quite as strong a yellow as what's showing in this picture. It's a little bit more of paler yellow. And when it was in a bouquet mixed with anything, it really sparkled. It gave that dance that I like in a bouquet, because the lightness of it popped and sparkled as though sunlight was glinting off of it. But the darker parts of it, which would be like the green stem, subsided and made depth and shadows. So there was a lot of movement from depth created by just that snapdragon itself. Instead of all being a dark shadow, it had that lightness and the darkness. So it created a lot of undulates. Is that the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the words to the bouquet. Loved it. And also with the spikes coming off, you know, they would move a bit. So that created not just a visual dance, but an actual physical dance within the bouquets. Now, I also ordered for this year, besides that one, I didn't use it in bouquets last year because I only ordered a small package. So there wasn't enough to really test out. You know, I mean, I used the ones that I have, but it wasn't enough of them to test out. I just knew that I really liked them. So I ordered more for this year. And I also ordered 2 other Snapdragons for this year. And what I ordered, again, these will be pictures from my garden, is Legend Light Pink. Again, I loved that pink. It was a really strong pink, and yet it created that same sort of dance that the Orleans Early Lemon did. And both, the Orleans Early Lemon was a group 3-4. So in theory, it would be blooming later on in the summer. But both the Legend Light Pink that I ordered, as well as the Costa Silver, were group 1. So in theory, they were going to bloom much earlier than the Orleans Early Lemon. They did bloom earlier by about a week because we went straight from winter into a heat wave. We jumped at least 10 degrees Celsius, if not more, overnight, literally. There was no in between in that 10 degrees. It went from hovering around 19 degrees Celsius right up to 30, and it never went down after that. So we went from cold, wet, and rainy and miserable to way too hot. So all the summer stuff started blooming right away. The spring flowers hung on for a bit, but then they slowly started to fade out because it was just too hot for them. And frankly, it was too hot for the Orleans Early Lemon too. And once the heat wave started, it wasn't long before the Snapdragons were finished. But I loved them and I used them a lot. And I did create a video on Snapdragon bouquet recipes, which I will link to at the end of this video, because I go over the flowers that I used with the Snapdragons and how I put them all together. So if you like Snapdragons and you've never used them in a bouquet, or if you just want to see other ways of using them in a bouquet and you haven't seen that video yet, you'll definitely have to check that video out. Now, while I'm thinking about it, if you like this format of video, I'm going to do more of them with other flowers. I know I'm going to do them with sunflowers and probably a few others as well. So if you want to see those, you should subscribe so that you make sure that you don't miss them all out, because they're going to be my thoughts over the course of the season on individual flowers rather than my thoughts on the season as a whole. So let's get on to what have I got next on my list that I'm going to do here. I am going to talk about what was blooming when the Snapdragons were blooming. And again, this will be a bit about like how I use Snapdragons in bouquets, because I'm going to put up a few pictures of some of the bouquets that I did with other things that were blooming at the time. Not everything, just a few bouquets, just so you can get an idea. So this particular bouquet that I'm going to put up, it's paired with an ambassador allium, as well as hair allium, as well as a black button bachelor buttons, as well as bridal veil astilbe. And this one has a much more lighter, frothier look than I normally do, and that's due to the white astilbe that's in there. But you can see with the Orleans Early Lemon in there, it's not a strong yellow as it appeared in the garden. It has the yellow in it, but it still has much more of a feeling of lightness to it. So you really get that back and forth color in it. It would be better if this particular bouquet had a darker backdrop, so you could really pull out the lightness of the Snapdragons as well as the bridal veil astilbe, but concrete backdrop is what I'm doing this year. So the next bouquet that I'm going to put up on the screen, and I have to turn over on my computer so I can see what I'm talking about. I've got it paired with yarrow, and I've got it paired with a couple of different types of yarrow, and that's all that's in here. It's just the yarrow, I think. And it looks like I have all 3 Snapdragons that I grew this year. I have the Orleans Early Lemon up top, I have the Legend Light Pink off to the one side, and I have the Costa Silver off to the other side. I find Legend Light Pink and Costa Silver very similar in color. The Costa Silver is just a little bit lighter, which actually makes it go with a few more things, because if the flowers I'm pairing it with don't actually work with pink, they'll still work with Costa Silver. So the next bouquet I'm going to put up is paired with, oh, hang on a sec. I'm going to just, I have a little bit of a mistake here. Hang on. I gotta find the other picture. I know there's a third one. Okay, I did not make a mistake. You wouldn't know that because you didn't see the picture yet. It's paired with Bridal Veil again, and I was just thinking, well, I already did Bridal Veil, but there's no Ambassador Allium in with this one. It's just the Bridal Veil and the Snapdragons. And again, really, this bouquet needed a darker backdrop to it, but again, the concrete backdrop, which is actually not concrete, it's cement board. I've got on my table where I take the pictures, I've got a little slice of a burl of wood, and then I've got a piece of cement board leaning up against the wall that I put the bouquets on, and that's how I'm taking the pictures this year. I'm not fussing around with different backdrops. That just takes extra time that I don't want to deal with. So after that, like I said, I didn't get the Snapdragons lasting a whole lot into the heat wave. You can see a picture here of what they looked like in the garden. In this picture, you can tell that I have not supported them at all. I did not use any kind of netting for them to grow through. They grew strong, sturdy, large flower heads, but nice sturdy stems, so they weren't wonky at all. And really, really, oh, hello there. She's coming up to me and I'm not even paying attention. Really, really easy to look after. Now, the only thing I did wrong with the way that I planted them is I planted them in blocks of color. So I had a bed that's 4 feet wide by, I think it's 10 or 11 feet long. I can't remember anymore. I had about 150 of each to plant, and I planted them 3 inches apart. That worked out really, really well. But what I did is I planted them in blocks. So I went the 4-foot width of the bed, and I went until the 150 finished. And then I started the next one, and then I started the next one. It worked great in the spring. The problem is that when it came time to plant, because I'm planting sunflowers this year 1 week later to see if that final planting of sunflowers will still also do well. The only place I had to plant them was where the Snapdragons were. And I was willing to forego some of the Snapdragons because not having really liked any of my Snapdragons the previous years, I didn't cut them back for a second flush. So I didn't know if I was going to like the second flush. So I gave some of the Snapdragon room to the last planting of my sunflowers. And that room it required was basically the space of 2 of the blocks of colors. So I had to pull out the New Orleans Early Lemon, and because I already had a sunflower block right up to the New Orleans Early Lemon, and then my final one was going to go again. So that one had to come out. My Legend Light Pink had to come out, and I was left with the Costa Silver. Nothing wrong with that, except that's all I got growing right now. That's all I can use in bouquets because I don't have the Legend Light Pink and I don't have the Orleans Early Lemon. So the only Snapdragons that I'm using in my bouquets right now are Costa Silver. They look great, love it, but I really wish I'd had all 3. So instead of planting them in blocks next year, I'm going to plant them in rows so that the 3 rows, or 3 or 4 rows, are the width of the bed, and then however long they go. So then if I need to steal for sunflowers again or something else, I will still have each color available in the late summer, early fall for my second flush. So that's something I'm absolutely going to do different next year. Now, if you're enjoying this video, please give me a like. I'd really appreciate it. I do really appreciate the likes because after all, it means you like the video. You really, really like the video. Does anybody remember those commercials with Mikey? How Mikey really, really liked? What? What did he really, really like? That popped into my head, but I can't remember what the commercial was about. So if you know, leave it in the comment section below, and don't forget to like this video. Now let's get on to the next portion of this video. So this part of the video, I'm just going to show some of the recipes, some of the bouquets that I'm doing now that I've got my second flush of Snapdragons. And of course, I now have late summer flowers versus the bouquets that I was showing earlier on was in the spring. So those were spring flowers. So this first picture that I'm putting up, you can see I've got it paired with the dinner plate dahlia tartan. And I've got some Pro Cut white sunflowers up above it and to the side, whether they're Pro Cut light or Pro Cut night, can't tell in this picture. I have some of my cosmos tucked into the top, those little frilly white things. Those are double click snow puff, which means they're the full-headed cosmos. Now cosmos, I will only grow the full-headed double click varieties because they're the ones that last the longest in a bouquet. They've got so many little petals to the flower that if one falls off, there's plenty more. If you just get the cosmos with the one ring of petals, once one or two fall off, it's clear that there's gaps. So I like the double clicks. Also paired in this bouquet, no, that is just laurel leaves tucked in around on the other side, so that there's some large green leaves. So for my next bouquet, I have it paired here with AC Ben, which is the orange dinner plate dahlia in the center of the bouquet. You can see I've got some more snow puff double clicks, but I also have coming out to one side a double click rose bonbon cosmo. The laurel leaves again, and of course my Costa Silver Snapdragons. The next bouquet, I've got it paired with another dinner plate dahlia. This one is AC Loomis, which sort of has a slightly downward face to it. Just off to the side, you can see a firelight hydrangea blossom tucked in behind the Pro Cut Gold Light Sunflower. I've got the Costa Silver Snapdragons. And you can see just in the back there, I have a little bit of purple marjoram, and then of course the laurel leaves. Now in this bouquet, I have it paired with the dinner plate dahlia Labyrinth, which has off to its side a Pro Cut White Light Sunflower. I have Rose Bonbon Cosmos coming out the top. I have the Snapdragons, and of course I have the laurel leaves. And can I see anything else in that bouquet? I can see what looks like another labyrinth tucked around the back of it. But those are the four bouquets that I have on here to show you for what I'm doing with them now. So the question is, am I going to be growing those three Snapdragons again next year, which was the Orleans Early Lemon, which is a group 3-4, the Costa Silver, which is a group 1, and the Legend Light Pink, which is also group 1? And the answer is, of course I'm going to grow them again. So I ordered those, but I also ordered one more to experiment with. Before we get into the new Snapdragon that I'm going to try out for the 2025 season, I just wanted to go over a few more bits of information about how I grew my Snapdragons this year. So I started them on February 4th, and I started them in my seed room. And I don't individually do the seeds. They are way too small, and I don't have the patience for that. I just kind of sprinkle them in. So they were all up by February 11th, which is 7 days later. So basically 1 week, and then they were all sprouted. Some of them would have started sprouting before, but I don't usually mark the date until the majority of them are actually up and out of the ground. Not that I know the majority when you're just sprinkling them in, because you really have no idea how many you've planted. Then they got planted out on March 24th. So if they were sprouting on, what day were they sprouting on? All up by February 11th, and then planted outside on March 24th. Of course, there was hardening off for a week before that. But that gives you basically about 5 weeks after they had sprouted that they ended up getting planted out. When I cut them back, and I'd have to go back to my notes to when I cut them back for the second flush. I do know that I left it a bit too late because I was trying to keep some interesting color in my front garden so that when people drove by and saw my flower wagon, they'd actually see flowers blooming in the garden, because my dahlias really weren't getting going yet. So I think though I want to cut them back sooner because I want them to start growing sooner so that I potentially have them sooner I don't know how that'll work. I still have to figure that out. That's why it isn't really important when I cut them back, because maybe I'll decide that that was a good time, because I did like having the color in the garden. And really, they started blooming as soon as our heat wave broke. So whether I'm going to gain anything from that or not, I got to think about that one. I did mention that I planted about 150 of each one, and that they were in a block and 3-inch spacing. So those were just the things that I wanted to go over. Is basically when I started the seeds, how I started them, how long it took for them to sprout, and then when I actually planted them out in the garden. Now let's get back to the 4th one that I ordered for growing for the next year's season. So the new sunflower, so the new Snapdragon that I'm going to try out next year is called Chantilly Bronze. Now, you'll remember I tried a bronze earlier on, so I'll put Chantilly Bronze, the one I'm going to order, up at the top here, and then the one that I did order and didn't like below it, and that one is called Opus Early Bronze. And you can see the difference in the color. First of all, the Chantilly Bronze is an open Snapdragon. It doesn't have the closed mouths. I've never grown one. Well, clearly I've never grown one of those before, if you've followed all the other Snapdragons I've grown. So that in itself will be interesting. The other thing, the color just feels a bit rosier than that deep, potent browny orange that was on the Opus Early Bronze that I had tried before that I didn't like. They may both be bronze, but honestly, the Chantilly Bronze looks more like a bronze color to me than the Opus one did. The Opus one just looked orange. It didn't look bronzy at all. So I'm really looking forward to trying that one out, because I think it will pair nicely, not just with the silver, the Costa Silver, because that'll pair with everything, but I think it will also pair well with the Legend Light Pink. And I think it will pair well with the Orleans Early Lemon, because none of them will fight with each other. None of them are saying, look at me, I'm the star of the show. The rest of you just fade into the background, don't want to know you, don't care. No, I think it'll play nicely with all the other Snapdragons, as well as all the other flowers that I'm growing. I just think it's an absolutely gorgeous Snapdragon, according to the picture. Hopefully I'll feel the same when I grow it next year, but you'll have to stick around till next year to find out whether or not I do like it or not. Now, if you found this video really interesting and useful as far as Snapdragons goes, as maybe you learned something if you're already growing Snapdragons, maybe you've never grown them and you're considering growing them, and this has helped you make up your mind to either grow them or not. But either way, if you grow them, and even if you make bouquets with them yourself, you might want to check out my video on Snapdragon bouquet recipes, because I go over again what I pair them with in the spring and how I put the bouquet together. I literally put the bouquets together. I can't remember how many I'm putting together. Each one is completely different, but I put them together on screen and walk you through how I'm putting them together. You might find that really, really interesting. So check that video up here. See you next week. Bye.